If you're a Canadian looking to invest in US real estate, there are a number of really important things you must consider. If you set things up wrong, it can cost you a whole lot of money. But don't let that discourage you, because there are lots of opportunities out there. And in this video, I'm going to cover 3 important things you must consider if you're a Canadian looking to invest in US real estate. So make sure you hit the subscribe button right now so you don't miss more videos about building wealth through multifamily real estate. And if you don't know me, I'm Seth Ferguson, a 12-year real estate veteran, host of a real estate TV show, host of a real estate investing podcast, and I'm also the author of the real estate book, Sell for More. So let's get right into this. I've gotten lots of requests for this video, Canadians investing in US real estate. Before we move on to the 3 things that you must consider when investing in the US, I thought it would be good to highlight some of the challenges that Canadians can encounter if they're looking to acquire properties on their own in the US. One thing would be financing. Lots of US lenders want a US resident on the title of the property to acquire and to get the best financing terms. So if you're a foreign investor, if you're a Canadian looking to invest in the US, financing can become a challenge. And then also we have management. If you're not boots on the ground, who's going to manage the manager? You can't just drive by the property, you can't check it out. Who's going to be looking after things if you're in Canada and the property's in the US? So management becomes an issue and a challenge. And then third, we can talk about deal flow. If you're not active in the market, if you're not targeting sellers and brokers, meeting with them face to face, it can be challenging to get good deal flow if you're doing things all on your own. If you're acquiring, let's say, a single family home or a duplex. And that's where syndication comes into play. I've done lots of videos before on syndication. I'll put a link right up here to a video I did explaining the syndication structure and the benefits. What syndication allows you to do is to invest passively in a large multifamily property. So instead of buying a single family home with all the challenges that come along with that, the smaller scale, the poor cash flow, you can participate in these large apartment complexes, apartment buildings as a passive investor and have professionals manage it and really put your money to work. So I'll put a link right up here to another video I did talking about the benefits of syndication. So now let's move on to 3 things you must consider if you're a Canadian looking to invest in US real estate. The first thing to consider is structure, but when it comes to taxes, because we have tax credits. And I talk all the time about the benefits of cost segregation, depreciation. I'll put a link right up here to the video I did covering that amazing, wonderful topic and how it can save you a whole lot of money and reduce your tax liability. This is one of the reasons why investors invest in multifamily syndications, because of the tax benefits they provide. But as a Canadian, structure becomes very, very important. If you Google online about US real estate, you'll see that LLC is the preferred structure for US real estate investors. It provides a whole lot of benefits, and it's a great structure to use if you are an American citizen. But if you're a Canadian, you have to take CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, and for the American listeners and viewers, that's the IRS, but in Canada. So the problem is CRA does not recognize an LLC. So if you have all the tax credits that are coming through the LLC, so you have your depreciation and your bonus depreciation, when it comes time to do your Canadian taxes, CRA will say, no, we don't recognize an LLC, and we're not going to recognize the tax you paid on the US side of the border. So that means you're going to get double taxed. Paying tax once is fair. You pay what you owe, but paying tax twice when you don't have to, that's a bad thing. We want to avoid that. So the way as a Canadian that we avoid that is we use what's called an LP, a limited partnership. And CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, does recognize an LP. So that allows you to use the tax credits. So you get credit for the tax you paid on the US side, and then you pay whatever is remaining on the Canadian side. The next thing to consider is personal structure. What I mean by personal structure is, are you going to invest in a syndication as yourself under your own name? Are you going to set up a corporation, an entity to invest through? These are all discussions to have with your investment-specific accountant and investment-specific lawyer. It's all going to come down to your own specific situation. Everybody's situation is different, so just make sure you're working with a cross-border accountant who specializes in cross-border real estate investments, and they will be able to guide you on how to structure yourself personally, whether or not it's beneficial to invest through an entity or invest under your own name. For number 3, we'll continue along the same structure vein. So it's going to be called repatriation. Repatriation refers to repatriating the funds, repatriating your profits to the Canadian side of the border. So let's say this is the border right here, and you have your U.S. entity that is invested in a U.S. syndication. The syndication will give you tax benefits, tax credits through depreciation, cost segregation, and then they will also feed you your profits from the investment. So your monthly cash flow from the investment, and whenever you sell the property, when the entity divests itself of the property, you will get the proceeds of that sale into your U.S. entity right here. If you're planning on keeping your money on the U.S. side of the border, you're going to be taking a different tact than, let's say, if you're looking at bringing the money back across the border to an entity on the Canadian side. At that point, you are repatriating the funds, and you're going to have to speak with your accountant about the most tax efficient way to do that. Because at the end of the day, we want to avoid that double tax situation where you're paying too much tax. We want to avoid that altogether, and we want to minimize your taxes. So again, are you going to set up a Canadian entity on the Canadian side of the border that your US entity is going to feed into? Or are you just going to have direct ownership to it? These are all questions that are going to boil down to your own specific situation. So with all of our investors, I always highlight and stress the importance of working with a solid cross-border accountant who is familiar with real estate investments. They will save you so much time, money, and aggravation by structuring you properly right from the start, because it's very challenging if you've already invested in a syndication or invested in real estate using an LLC, and then you have to try and work backwards. You're going to pay a whole lot more tax than you have to, and it's going to cause so many headaches. So rule number 1, get a tax-specific accountant who works cross-border, who understands real estate syndication and U.S. real estate investing as it relates to a Canadian. So these are the 3 things you have to keep in mind. Your structure for taxes, because we want to avoid double taxation. Your personal structure, whether you're going to invest through an entity or under your own name, and then flowing through that is the repatriation of money. Are you keeping it on the US side of the border, or are you planning on bringing it back over? All these things have to be taken into account. If you're interested in learning more about the deals I'm currently looking at, head on over to callseth.com and set up a free 20-minute phone call with me. And if you like this video, if you found this useful, hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think. It really helps out the channel. And until next time, happy investing.